Let's talk about a French fucking kids cartoon, why don't we?
Yeah.
Yeah. This is going to be another weird podcast for people who don't typically watch this sort of thing on my channel. If you follow anything I do, you kind of note that I typically jump around from place to place in terms of type of content, the sort of thing I talk about, and it tends to be that not everything I do is for a very wide audience, and this is kind of the most extreme example of this.
Or for any audience.
This is not suited for anyone. Basically, we're going to be, just to kind of to cut the bread, as they would say, as no one says, we're going to be talking about a French children's cartoon by the name of Wakfu. The thing is that you've probably never heard of it, which is great. I previously did this sort of thing for the show Avatar: The Last Airbender, but the thing is that that's kind of like a widely watched and critically acclaimed show. Like I think it's in,
especially in like English-speaking countries.
In the American mainstream, it's big. Not even American, just in the West. Yeah.
Yeah. Whereas this one has like very little attention outside of France.
Yeah. Well, it has like a kind of cult following almost.
I mean, like people who like watch like anime or like a lot of foreign kind of
shows.
Yeah.
The thing is, I know like tons of people are very, very much into anime. In fact, I think you, Sean, the guy I'm with, by the way, he if you follow anything else in my channel, like some of my video essays, he helps me co-write them. We've known each other for a while, and we'll be doing more stuff in the future. But yeah, for now, I'm talking about a fucking French kids show.
Glorious first appearance.
Wow, you're honorary. You're my honorary reel, Sean.
Yeah.
If I the brilliant speaker,
you needed help for this one.
I needed help. I needed to tackle this autism. It's on a whole nother fucking level.
You can't do it without me.
Yeah, I can handle Avatar by myself. This is some
it
next level
requires
shit.
expert handling.
This is some radioactive waste.
But yeah, what were you were saying something about
Oh yeah, lots of people can be very, very much into anime, but I don't know people who are like dedicated to just watching cartoons. I suppose.
This kind of falls outside of the kind of any kind of hobby purview, doesn't it? It's
exactly.
It's a very specific thing. It's not like you can categorize a group of people who would be like, they like Wakfu is one kind of show that I enjoy.
Yeah.
It's not, and it's with anime, it's usually there's a coherent, there's a lot very familiar style with all of Japanese animation.
Yeah, of course.
Whereas
it follows a very specific trend, and even the things that are experimental in their own little designated corner.
Yeah,
almost.
There's a lot of, and that's a huge industry with kind of filling every niche, and you have a reasonable idea of what to expect. Whereas with this Wakfu, it's like it's a little phenomenon. It's kind of there's no trend of French animation that you can follow it across.
It's almost like a new genre, almost like when you go into watching like a horror film, say, or a drama or something. You've got years and years and years of plays and films and radio shows and books and TV shows and whatever. So when you go into it, you have certain expectations, and then you also have subversive expectations of things that kind of deconstruct the horror genre, like Scream kind of deconstructs the horror genre, stuff like that. You've got this huge world built around it, but Wakfu is the sort of thing where, as we'll go into, it's quite heavily influenced.
This is the thing, you recommended it to me. I didn't know what the fuck I was getting into. I watched it, and it was so just I don't really know, but I mean, it's not like it's particularly strange or anything. It was just there was no like preconceived. There was no package that I knew what to expect.
You had no idea what you were getting into.
Yeah, and I didn't know it was going to be like total trash or any good. So it was a bit of a gamble.
That's also what makes it good, though. In the end, where you're kind of, because I think we should mention the other reason that this show isn't. For one, it's not super successful, I don't think, because it's a weird foreign language kids cartoon. Like, the reason Avatar is successful is because it had a good budget. There was nothing like it on American TV cartoon-wise. It's basically just really well-made, choreographed, has a lot of care put into it, and it struck at a time when there was nothing to compete with it. It's kind of... it ended up being one of the last, ironically, the last Airbender ended up being one of the last great kind of action cartoons.
Yeah,
and what's the competition now? Like Steven's Universe, I guess. Korra died,
but everyone likes Avatar. Like you talk to like anyone who grew up during that time, and they'll be like, that show was great,
fun, yeah. But I think what I find interesting is that there's like casual anime viewing in the sense that like just kind of like normal people might have seen, Death Note, Fullmetal Alchemist, Code Geass, even Evangelion, that sort of thing.
Yeah.
And I mean, I'm not saying like 100% normie sort of person, but like just someone who watches TV might have seen that. They're like a casual viewer.
Yeah, those are things that broadcast on like just general national free TV.
Are they like Death?
Yeah, no, Death Note was. It was on ABC
really?
and ABC2 and stuff.
In Australia?
Yeah.
Wow. I never knew that, actually. That's kind of cool. Like
and
the dub, of course.
And of course there's also
DBZ
Dragon Ball Z on kids TV and that kind of thing.
Yeah, because like lots of people grew up with DBZ.
Yeah.
That sort of thing's like a casual, very mainstream. Like DBZ's known in the mainstream. You could ask most people, they'd probably know who Goku was.
But on that topic, it did remind me that there was a French TV show, cartoon, called, I don't know if you've ever heard of this one, but it was Code Lyoko.
I have the fucked up forehead.
Yeah,
people.
But that
it's
one,
so fucking weird.
That was sort of relatively like.
Yeah, that was English dubbed from memory on kids TV.
Yeah,
but well, that's another thing about Wakfu that's kind of interesting is that the dub only came out 2 years ago.
Only through fan crowdfunding. It wasn't. It wasn't ever translated before that. So
it's not only just some weird little thing that's like poorly made. It's like pretty high budget from what you can tell, especially in like the latter half of the first season.
There's a lot of time that's gone into it.
Artistic effort.
Yeah,
it isn't
they
some
would
like
have had a lot of people working on some of that.
Yeah, it doesn't feel like it's being exported to like North Korea for people to be whipped. And
there's definitely a lot of like love and effort put into it.
Yeah, it's very local. It feels very genuine, and it's kind of odd that you'll get shows that feel like they're kind of high. It feels high budget. It feels like a film in parts. Not the first half of the first season. That's pretty
very TV.
It's very TV.
Monster of the week.
Yeah, we'll kind of go into that a bit in terms of. I think we both dropped the show for a little while. But anyway, I was talking about casual viewers. There's lots of casual viewers of cartoons, right? Like in the same way that people would watch like Yu-Gi-Oh on TV, DBZ. There's lots of casual viewers of like Avatar, Steven's Universe.
Yeah, a lot of people talk about like Steven Universe.
Lots of people. Stevens. Is it Steve? I don't care enough.
Yeah.
Something about gems and lesbians.
Exactly, but no, I could go over to my family extended something, and someone will, I'll talk about the. Okay, I don't just bring up cartoons. Okay, I can't remember the context of this.
Kiddies, Steven?
For some reason, someone was talking about Steven Universe, and I was like, it's just people. It's
just something people just talk about.
Yeah, especially because of the internet. People are like,
of course, yeah.
Oh, this is a cool cartoon, guys.
Yeah, it's something that it kind of fits into that normal TV viewing audience where some are just like older people. I mean, obviously has like a pretty big like older following, but I don't mean people who are like Tumblr fan base obsessed. I mean just like regular people who are like, oh yeah, I watch Steven's Universe. Oh yeah, I watch Avatar, that sort of thing.
Yeah.
Normal people, inverted commas. But then I don't think there's a really big community, nowhere in the sense of anime levels of huge, of people who are just super into watching cartoons. Like
no.
There are people, but I don't think it's as broad, and I think a lot of them come from superhero comics, watching like DC, Marvel adaptations of.
There's no. Well, I guess there's no kind of core thing to rally around because the Western market of like cartoons is so diverse. You're not going to have people. It's not really. You can't really generically say I'm a fan of cartoons because they're all so different and they all appeal to different tastes.
It's also quality levels. I think the reason why anime is appealing is because people grow up watching something like Yu-Gi-Oh! Or DBZ or even Avatar, which is obviously anime influenced, and so is Wakfu to a great extent.
Yeah.
And they kind of go into anime, which is, obviously there's still stuff in anime that's like immature as fuck and terrible.
And poorly made,
and commercial and so on and so forth. But there's also stuff that's a lot darker and it kind of appeals to the same medium, I suppose, of adaptation, not adaptation,
And,
animation.
and anime is just being constantly produced there. I mean, there's no shortage of
there
series.
is so
like,
much.
You think about
So much.
like here over here, you'll be like people will mostly be following just long running sort of things. You don't get like which is the thing about Wakfu. You don't get short 20 kind of episode series over here.
It's like one-off season.
Yeah, people don't animate that kind of thing. People make cartoons here for the kind of the long-term like money investment, that sort of thing. It's you want to have a franchise. You don't want to just have
franchise with toys is typically the way to go. That's why Transformers was a thing essentially. No, you're absolutely right. It's a couple of things as well. Typically, anime has an enormous audience in Japan. I mean, there are a lot of weird details as to how anime actually makes money. It's very strange in terms of like hyper inflated.
And it's a huge industry sales. With a huge market.
Yeah, and also a foreign market.
So huge foreign market, exactly.
Different things. But yeah, with cartoons, it's like I think the reason why something like Steven's Universe is so popular, or
Steven,
fuck off, I don't.
It just sounds retarded.
But is it his universe?
It's not his.
Is his name
He's
Steven
like
Universe?
A little fat kid. Why is it his universe?
Don't body shame him. Yeah. I'm gonna bring the left wing death squads over your house. Papa Stalin's not happy with you and how you're talking
Stalin
about
would put Steven in a fucking camp.
Starve him in Siberia.
Yeah.
Fucking great. But the reason that show and Avatar and Korra to some extent had such enormous followings is because they're kind of like one of a kind thing. Like nothing like Avatar in the kind of scope it had in animation, action, character writing, story, world building, that sort of thing.
I can't think of many. You don't end up with like you didn't really see, or as far as I can remember, a huge kind of trend of like Avatar clones.
Well, that's what we're talking about.
The thing about
Wakfu is very definitely like the...
Yeah.
It's arguable as to if it stole stuff. There are moments in the show that are so reminiscent of parts of Avatar, scenes, designs, that sort of thing.
But it's also so different and local as well.
It's very uniquely French, yes.
Yeah, and it feels less of a, less, I don't know, shady, if it's like I'm saying, if it's like because Avatar, they're like imitating Japan.
Yeah, and they literally had animators in Studio Pierrot, Studio Mer, which are in Korea and Japan. Yeah,
so it's not. Wakfu doesn't feel like a rip-off at all.
No, it does not feel. Because here's the thing, I can't remember exactly how I found Wakfu. But it was kind of, people were recommending shows based on kind of liking Avatar. I think Fullmetal Alchemist Brotherhood came up. I can see why it's kind of similar to Avatar, but it kind of fits into that nice world building. But the other one was Wakfu, and people kind of branded it as the French Avatar. Yeah. But it definitely isn't a rip-off. When I say it borrows scenes and characters and kind of just moments where, as someone who's seen Avatar so many times, it's... It might just be like me projecting a bit. I don't think it is, though.
No, I mean, I haven't even seen Avatar, but I can definitely see that...
Fucking 10 episodes.
Yeah, it's like, obviously, it was like, the people there were like, we have, because it's based off a video game kind of...
Oh, yeah, that's another thing we should mention. Wakfu, here's the thing, you're probably, if anything, familiar with the Wakfu or Dofus game... or games. They're like these kind of big... I think it's the biggest French MMO.
They're huge in France, apparently. Oh, from what I've heard, they're big... Yeah, like big MMOs. So that'd be like kind of someone making like on a cartoon, like an EverQuest cartoon or something.
It is very similar. Even EverQuest is based in Flash, It's kind of like...
Or RuneScape cartoon or something.
Doesn't... There's a Del Toro Quest anime. Do you know about that? Yeah, actually made in Japan.
But that's interesting. But that's kind of...
That's not based on a game. No, it's like a book series.
That's kind of what it would... I think that's what it would feel like. Yeah.
No, but here's a different thing. That's based on an existing storytelling medium, right? Like a book series or...
Yeah.
I guess a book series is like the most common type of adaptation.
With a video game, there's no...
It's an MMO as well. If it was a single-player video game that got adapted into a series, that would make sense because single-player video games typically have like linear storylines.
But this one I had to invent a whole story. Yeah. And also, it's so fucking insane. It's fucking insane how it came about.
But I think the reason why Wakfu works is because the world building is amazing, kind of as a result of the
I
MMO.
think that really would have helped them a lot. I mean, there's no like it's made by the studio that made the game as well.
Yes,
so
that's
it's
the
obviously going to be like very true to life. I can imagine the people like the concept artists and stuff behind it being really hyped to like put their
make a show,
their game world into something that's a television show to explore it in a more intimate kind of way.
And kind of on that topic, is this like the only good adaptation of a video game to have ever existed?
Yeah,
honestly, I was trying to think of that before we started.
I do think they're I can vaguely picture something a bit more like obscure, but I can't think of anything like this. No.
Yeah, because there are video games that kind of almost have movie level cinematics inside them that are like okay, but then it's not a movie in itself. It's just kind of, you see these on YouTube all the time.
Exactly what you're saying about Wakfu. It doesn't seem like a natural evolution to make a television show.
No, it doesn't in the slightest.
It'd feel like if you saw the fantasy making a cartoon for kids based around their highly successful MMO, your first thought would probably be, it's a toy cash-in sort of thing.
That's the thing about Wakfu is, as soon as I heard that, and I think I described this to you because I dubiously started watching the series, and I think kind of funnily enough, the opening scene of Wakfu, to not really go into huge spoilers or anything, but it's this great, very well animated fight scene, and I was kind of like, okay, this is interesting. It's got weird, as we should mention, it's like a very strange multimedia Flash
from the very outset. There's it's strange in the way like the scene and the like animation is constructed. Like it's not
typical in the slightest.
Yeah, and also it's strange in that the first fight scene is between this like dragon and a clock guy.
Yeah,
who's has a mechanical, like very sci-fi-ish sort of aesthetic.
Yes.
And it's in like
very anachronistic in this fantasy, like almost generic fantasy.
It really jumps
world.
out at you with the uniqueness. I mean,
that's the only reason it kind of perked my interest. On top of people saying, I had people claiming it was better than parts of Avatar, especially this one character, the clock guy, who we'll kind of go into.
Yeah,
but
definitely.
That opening scene is like amazing, and the show looks great, but it does take, I think, a little bit of kind of getting your head around the way certain things look.
It's a bit jarring at first.
It is, yeah.
Especially for me, I found that very strange. I remember, I watched the first episode, and you'd been telling me, the animation is so great, and I watch it, and it's like it's like what fucking Newgrounds, except with like better backgrounds. It was like it was so
Sony Vegas motion
graphics.
graphics.
Yeah, no, the movement of the characters was so kind of stiff at first.
Yes.
Very like
it's like it has
very flashy.
It's very flash, where it looks like everything, because Flash is it's a combination of all the different elements in a body. Like they'll add like the eyes as separate layers. Like
they'll have them as all different objects and like move them around,
which gives the sensation sometimes of people floating or not being held together, like their body parts are about to very float off.
Didn't feel traditionally animated at all in the people sense, except for like some of the sequences. But at the beginning, it was very very hard to get used to.
Well, here's the thing: is that opening fight scene is very the levels of hand drawn animation and kind of keyframing. Levels and detail in how fluid the animation is change to such a degree throughout the series. There are points where it's like that fight scene is like so quite beautiful, and the way that they draw fire is very it reminds me a lot of the way that Trigger, like the Gurren Lagann Kill la Kill people, they do movement, and there are even lots of Gurren Lagann influences kind of in the series, but that fight scene's amazing. And then the scene immediately after that just has this like terrible flash sequence where this little like bird comedic side character animal is like doing this terrible comedic bit, and the flash animation is awful.
The two little birds and it goes on and on.
It goes on for like a minute and a half, and it's not funny in the slightest, and it made me drop the show for about 2 months.
Yeah.
And then eventually I picked it up again because people kept on recommending it. And then, of course, I recommended it to Sean, and he was like, "What the fuck am I watching?"
I watched because it was it was like this is the first kind of big English distribution. It's on Netflix now.
Oh yeah,
and that's where I watched it. And
did you start with watching the English dub?
No. I watched the French straight off, luckily. And
yeah, you saved yourself.
It was I don't really know what to think of it, especially because you'd said it was good, so I was trying to keep my mind open, but at the same time, I also just wanted to, I don't know. It was
kill yourself.
No, it was just so it was just jarring. That's the only. It was but
it's almost degrading to the self when I started watching.
Yeah,
this. I'm
yeah.
just like,
no, I felt embarrassed.
I made a terrible mistake.
Came on. I was like, no, please. If I imagined the omnipotent collective consciousness of human kind, watching me and judging me,
dead grandmothers. You know,
yeah, exactly.
patriots.
My ancestors.
They died in World War One.
They're just looking at me and going, Jesus, how low. But but on that note, we were talking about the animation is for the first in the first season and stuff, you can definitely tell when the animation kicks in to a more there's a in the first one of the first fight scenes with it. I just remember it's like the normal style of the show, and then it becomes very fluid and very well.
What scene is that?
Well choreographed.
Is that the Grugal fight? Or?
No, before that, it's with Ruel and Grovey, but we can't go into too much detail about that.
I don't even remember that scene, but what episode is that?
They fight together against the
and it's like the side-scrolling. Yeah, very interesting. We should mention that there's not only is it like a traditional / Flash blend. Actually, you know what makes it look so strange is the Flash assets they have for each different object are all exquisitely hand drawn.
Yeah.
So it looks like you've almost taken kind of a beautiful hand drawn, picturesque, almost like a matte painting. But
and started fucking around with it.
But it's almost like you've cut out every single object
and then and then moving them around.
Yeah.
It's
because most Flash animation is very simple. Is the thing. So it looks weird when it's complex, but the movement is still jerky and kind of computer.
Yeah.
It's uncanny, I think. I think one of the most interesting things about this is that because Wakfu has this kind of thing where it's Laika, the studio Laika. They do.
No, I'm not. I don't know that one.
Coraline, Box Trolls.
Oh yeah.
Paranorman.
I know that one.
They made a Kubo and the Two Strings recently. All of their films make no money, basically. Coraline,
isn't that huge?
Coraline was huge, but their other stuff is pretty high budget, low returns.
I remember Paranorman, that would have had a pretty big budget, I think, but I don't remember that being very. It might have been quite successful, but I don't remember seeing that or hearing about that a lot. It's
successful critically. Yeah, people. It's kind of a cult thing, almost people, there's a kind of a cult following around Laika, almost in the same way that there is around Ankama now. The studio who make Wakfu.
People follow it because they enjoy the.
Yeah, well, that's another thing in the West. There aren't really any studios that people follow that produce quality content. It's almost the only creators I can think of.
What's her name? The people who did
Stevens.
No. Because she's a new kid on the block.
No,
she did stuff.
She was a voice actor in Adventure Time as
well. Yeah, but that's what I mean. But I'm talking a bit more about 2000s. What's it? Lauren Faust.
Yeah, true. She
and
did.
And her husband.
She did. What's her name? She did the first show she did, Foster's Home.
Foster. Yeah. No, and her husband did Powerpuff Girls.
Did he?
That her? Yeah.
Yeah, no. She married the guy who did Powerpuff Girls.
Yeah, and
I don't think they were together when. I think they were made separately.
Yeah,
essentially.
And then there was Foster's Home, which was huge as well. So there's personalities in the industry,
but very small though. And also the guys who made Avatar making Korra, they're the only other people I can think of. I'm sure there are others. I mean, because the thing is, we're not super into cartoons. It just happens to be that we've kind of just delved into Wakfu, and it's this weird, obscure thing.
Yeah. And there's just stuff you pick up just from hearing people talk. I mean, a lot of people are I've just watching random videos. I come across stuff about Steven Universe just because it's
it's just a thing.
There's any videos related to it have millions of views. It's
big following.
Yeah.
But it's interesting because Laika, the Box Troll studio, whatever, they make no money. But the way that they're supported is that the guy, as far as I'm aware, the guy who runs the studio is the son of either the guy who owns Nike or is a head owner.
Oh, okay.
And so it's like his little pet art project.
That's pretty cool, actually.
It is. So he kind of gets carte blanche to basically make anything.
Do anything. Yeah.
And even if it doesn't reel in any money, because I guess posterity will be good artistically. I don't know. So that's really cool that happens. And Karma's business model is fucked. Like, it doesn't make any sense.
Do they get money from the MMO?
I guess. Is that how they're funding it?
It's not subscription based. It's free.
It might have like pay to win stuff though.
Maybe
it would have to.
Yeah, you'd think.
Because well, here's another thing about the MMO. A friend of mine, Alex, actually, he had played Dofus before. Because I recommended Wakfu to him because he really liked. I kind of was like, "Hey, you should rewatch Avatar because it's great." Because he was asking for show recommendations.
Was he like, "Oh, I recognize this"?
He was like, "I recognize this art style," and I'm like, "Oh, it's based on the Wakfu game, the MMO. Have you ever played it?" He's like, "Oh no, never heard of it." And then he played Dofus, the MMO, because they're separate MMOs apparently, and obviously the art style is the same. And he's like, "Oh yeah, I've seen that." So yeah, he's actually someone who knew of the MMO, had no idea about the show though. But then we're the inverse, obviously. But their business model is really weird. Like, I guess they made the TV show, and Wakfu aired on France 3 or France 4 or whatever the kids' station. I don't know how critically successful it was, but I guess it was enough to make a second season.
That's the thing. I feel like we're kind of in the dark about friendship takes on the show because obviously there's a language barrier, and I haven't really researched Wakfu, but
definitely not.
I just wonder how people what it's like in France. Like, is it well known?
Is it like the French Avatar?
Yeah,
I don't think it is.
I don't think it would be. I don't think it'd be as huge. Although, I mean, like, also Avatar ran for quite a while.
No, they ran. Wakfu started in 2008, and it only the fucking Dofus movie
but the thing about Wakfu is it had 2 seasons that were made
very far apart.
Yeah,
wasn't the second season was like 2012 or 2013?
Yeah, and then all the rest of the content is funded through
Kickstarter.
Yeah, so it's like...
We should kind of reference like what sort of sprawling media Wakfu has, because I don't think we've made it clear. There's the first season of... Because this does get kind of confusing.
It's a big franchise.
It's a big... it's weird.
There's so much going on. Like...
You have the MMO, which we're believing funds the show, so that I guess it kind of references back into the MMO. But then there's the thing with the actual Wakfu, the series, the one we're talking about. It doesn't feel like it's there to sell toys. There are 3 episodes in the middle that are specifically related to the game for that purpose, but besides that, there's no like...
It's very self-sufficient. I wouldn't have guessed.
Yes.
I remember watching it, and I don't think I knew that it was based off a game, and it kind of blew my mind.
Yeah,
because
you would, when you're watching it, you would not expect it.
I just thought it was like all made for the show. Like, it felt very...
It felt very independent, but it's weird because it's the same studio. It isn't just like some people being like, hey, we like your game universe.
And
can we adapt it?
That's the thing. And I feel like if that had happened... It would have
been worse, by far, unless they somehow took all of their artists along with them or something.
But this just worked on its own very well, and I couldn't. There was no real indication for me. Like, it didn't seem. There wasn't any thing that gave me that impression. Yeah,
no, definitely not. Which is very, very strange.
There's a Dofus show as well. When did that come out?
2014 maybe. Yeah. So here's the thing.
Yeah,
you have Wakfu season 1. 26 episodes. That comes out in 2008. And then you have, I think it's 2012 is the second season, a direct continuation of the first season.
Yeah.
Also 26 episodes. Then you have a Kickstarter project by Ankama saying, we want you to give us money to make OVAs.
So you got, the special episodes.
Yeah.
The OVAs. You got the English dub of the original series.
The English dub and the Blu-ray releases were the big thing.
That's
the
right.
The OVAs were extras as Kickstarter perks. Because
that's so strange.
It's
they're
so
extras
weird.
Because they're so like
they weren't even integral.
Yeah, and they're like so much effort in
especially the
everything.
Nox. The Nox OVA is so integral to an understanding of the first season. That didn't come out until after the Kickstarter.
Yeah, and they also the Kickstarter also funded like the narrative continuation to season 2. The 3
OVAs.
Yeah,
so we should make that more explicit, I guess.
Yeah.
Basically, it kind of made sense because there was a cult following. And here's another thing that really weirds me out: the Kickstarter asked for like $250,000 for an English dub and Blu-ray releases of the whole series, because before that it was only like 480p or some shit.
So did they make So they got more money, and then
they
used
got
that.
they got like $1 million or something close. It was something ridiculous. It went way over. So they're like, by these markers, we'll make 2 OVA specials, one for one of the characters in season 1, and another one for like essentially like a world building kind of explanation, and then 3 other OVAs, which kind of
1 OVA in 3 episodes, isn't it? I mean, they're not 3 separate OVAs, are they?
Oh no, they are. They're 3 separate episode OVAs.
But no, you don't call the episodes within an OVA separate OVAs.
But they're all their own separate video animations, though.
No.
Oh, whatever. It's okay. It's its own 3-part, essentially season 2.5. That's 3 episodes long.
Yeah, that's the thing. It's like this extra is actually like integral.
It's like extremely important to the plot. Yeah. And then here's the other thing. Then there's also a 4-part manga series or tome or something. Manga series between the second season and the 3 episode OVA things. And then there's also the Dofus show, which is this younger kids show set like 600 or 700
like
years
60
before
episodes or something?
54. It does the Adventure Time thing where there's 2 episodes for every 22 minutes, like 11-minute run times.
That's like classic kids show kind of thing.
Yeah, divided into 2 parts. So there's that, and then that has characters in it that have very, very long lifespans, obviously, that then show up in Wakfu. It's
all interconnected.
Yeah, it's all interconnected.
But it's very natural, isn't it? It's very... Yeah. It's like they had all this in their head, and they're just like putting it... It's like they know exactly what they want to do. It's very interesting. I mean, they must... Yeah.
But like, in terms of their business model, like, so that Dofus series came out just kind of randomly. I don't think that was Kickstarted at all.
No, I think that was before, and they must have got a deal or something.
It's so strict but they're kind of self-sufficient. They're their own studio.
Sure, but I mean,
they get funded by France.
That's something that was made for TV, like almost certainly.
It was made for TV.
That was something that's very.
All the rips have the France 3 watermark.
Yeah.
That's the only reason I know it went to air. But here's the thing: they released the Dofus, like the movie based on Dofus, which is centered around a character who also shows up in Wakfu, which is really weird. It was like marketed terribly. Apparently, there were lots of French people that talked about. I think it made like 10% of its budget back.
That's so strange because it was such a well-made movie.
So well animated.
Yeah,
I don't even know how much money went into it.
Like. Better than anything I've seen in quite a while. Like,
it's beautifully shot
and
as well.
What were they like? Do they have no marketing budget?
It's like they don't want to make money.
Yeah,
they seem like strange. A really scattered studio almost. It's a very human studio in the sense that they're like completely fucked up and
but they're very effective at making their content, but.
It's almost like just a collection of artists that don't know how like they don't know how to run a business
exactly.
Almost. Like, did you know about the Kickstarter stuff? People got their Kickstarter stuff late.
Yeah, wasn't there like...
There were tons of issues,
And like, and the Blu-ray is... wasn't that limited run, basically? Limited.
Yeah, I wanted to buy the Blu-ray of it, and it does... They only printed the amount that people paid for in the Kickstarter, which is, like... fucking retarded. Also, for the Dofus movie, which came out in Blu-ray, because the animation is just beautiful in that film. You can't buy a Blu-ray of it. The only Blu-ray that exists, you have to import it from France, and it has no English subtitles. So it's like, you have to rip it from the Blu-ray. It's just like, why would I do that? It's like they want to appeal to a foreign market because they kickstarted, and people in the West,
and then they don't have any of the resources to deliver.
But like with the Kickstarter stuff, people got their stuff. They got the wrong stuff. Like the Blu-ray discs weren't in the case, and stuff was broken, and it was so fucked up. People got their stuff like months and months and months late. Some people didn't even get their stuff. Crazy shit like that. And also the English dub is like the worst thing I think we've collectively ever heard. It kind of blows anime English dubs out of the water.
I can't really remember anything about it except Ruel's fucking psycho, like gravel voice. Like it didn't sound like an old man. It sounded like, I don't know. It was just not nice to listen to.
It's one of the worst things I've ever heard.
Yeah,
it's like they actually had no voice director. Like it was just a bunch of random people reading their interpretation of the script instead of. It's like you can't make a film without a director. You can't make voice animation without voice direction.
Because you got to make them all sound like it has to sound right. It's a very finicky kind of
course.
Thing,
and here's the thing with voice recording: if you're just playing a scene, actors can kind of bounce off each other because they're in the scene with each other. With voice animation, it's typically unless if you're recording everyone in a booth together, which I don't think this did. I have a feeling that all the voice actors were kind of scattered. It's just, you're just talking into a microphone. You don't know who you're playing off, which is why voice direction is so important, because the voice director is thinking, okay, this person intoned this line in a certain way. You have to respond in this way. So it just sounds like a bunch of people just randomly yelling things, and it's like they're all deaf and they can't hear each other. You know what I mean?
Do you know?
I think that's about it.
That's about it in terms of what we can talk about, like without getting into the plot,
or spoilers. Because you kind of, the main thing, if you're going to watch this, and I think we would both recommend at least the first season. I'm not sure. Is there any way you can kind of like ease yourself into Wakfu? I don't even know.
Well, it's not like the first few episodes are unpleasant to watch. They're just not exactly... They're nothing special. So you'd watch it and you'd be like, okay, this is like a neat cartoon, I guess.
It's kind of... It's
why
very
should I
generic.
spend my time on this? I mean, it's like... It's nice enough to watch, but it does get like much better.
It gets exponentially better to ways that I don't think either of us saw were even remotely possible.
Like it was a very pleasant surprise, and I was kind of shocked. I was like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
So this is why it was recommended to me, because before I was kind of like,
what the fuck? Are you insane?
This exists and it's nice, but I don't see why you're making me watch it. But then it became more. It was like, I'm kind of glad I've watched this. So yeah.
In retrospect,
I mean, like when I was watching the final, like but midway through the show, I'm like, yeah, I'm into this now. Like I want to finish it.
Yeah, definitely. For a direct comparison, the first half of this show, and I think we should mention, and we'll probably go straight into this in terms of spoilers, but this is
spoilers.
No, this is not spoilers. Okay. This is a recommendation, but we will get into this just in a second. The first half of the show is basically the first season of Avatar. It's very loose and flowing, villain of the week sort of thing. It's very almost surreal and absurdist in parts, like with the bread episode. Just complete random kids shit.
Yeah. Just very playful.
Yeah, definitely. Playful is a good word to describe it, yeah. It's very fantastical, lots of kind of weird like movie references, and it's kind of it's like a generic kid show that has little tidbits and weird sexual French references for like adults to enjoy if they're watching with their kids.
It's not particularly lewd, but I mean,
it's not like, lewd, but it's far more than you'd see in American TV. American TV,
definitely.
Americans have some very weird ideas about.
But it's not like depraved or anything. I don't recoil in shock when I watch it. But there's there's a lot. It's
scatological
unique
gangbangs just every episode.
Those were the best parts, weren't they?
Dude, that's my favorite aspect. That's the second half of the show. That's where it gets good. That's the OVAs.
Those are the spoilers.
Yeah,
but
the first half is like that, and then the second half is like basically the Ba Sing Se arc of Avatar, where it's just like everything kicks into gear, and you're like, when did this show become amazing? Like,
that's kind of how I felt with BoJack. I mean, the first few episodes were unpleasant to watch.
Dude, it's like the first 8 episodes.
Something, and I was like,
that was another thing. I'm like, why the fuck did you recommend me this? Yeah.
I remember seeing people talk about it positively. I'm like, oh my god.
Yeah,
what?
No, but the second season, and
I wanted to like kill them all, but then it got alright.
Yeah, it got alright. Yeah, you watch the underwater episode of BoJack, and then you compare that to like the second episode or third episode, and it's just like.
Yeah.
You can't believe you're watching the same show.
The underwater
from the same
episode
writers.
is pretty Reddit.
No, it isn't.
I'm joking.
What did you think? Well,
fuck off.
Fucking.
Anyway, enough of BoJack.
Enough of all of this. Let's end it now. No, I'm kidding. Yeah, Evan. That's it for non-spoilers.
Yeah.
Watch the show if you like Avatar, or if you, I don't know. Basically, just
give it a try.
Basically, just endure the first half,
because it does get really
cool
and fun,
very very good, and then endure the rest of the series. It's very hard to recommend in that sense.
Yeah, because it gets way more I don't want to use the word mature, but it definitely there's a lot to think about.
Like, it gets very dark in parts.
Yeah, it's pretty tragic, but it's not.
It's tragic as fuck.
Yeah, but anyway.
That's it. This is spoilers now. So this is a thing.
This is where getting into the real plot and everything,
real shit.
Characters and the big stuff.
The big things, the interesting things. Number one, also we failed to mention that the show's kind of famous on the internet because of a fucking porn flash made by the infamous what's his name, Zone. Yeah.
He is a he, isn't he? But I think of him as a woman because of the
Zone Tan.
Zone Tan.
Haha. So here's the thing: if you're unaware of this for whatever reason, which not surprising. Well, we're fair to mention. I think we're saying if you know about Wakfu or Dofus, it would be from the MMO, but I think a lot of people more from a fucking porn flash.
Yeah.
The thing is with this is it isn't just some like regular ass thing. Didn't it take him like years to make or something?
Well, I don't know. Why would it?
I don't, because it's like ridiculously well made.
Isn't it like very pitch perfect to the show? Like it feels.
He's very good at emulating styles, as far as I'm aware. So yeah, it's very
imitative,
creepy.
Yeah,
it's creepy how accurate it is.
It wasn't based like it takes like from an actual scene in the show. Like
I think so.
It's like, yeah,
yeah. But, so that's why it's fucking famous.
What the thing about that is, and Karma, they got him to take it down. I think.
Oh, like sued him or?
They would have.
Is it like defamation?
No. They would have
cease and desist.
They would have cease and desist. They wouldn't have. They didn't sue him, I don't think, but they would have if he hadn't taken it down.
Jesus. Okay, no, I didn't know that actually.
And I guess you could easily. I mean, that'd probably be an easy case to make because he's basically using their kind of assets, isn't he? And it's not like
he's making money off it as well.
Yeah.
I don't know. Isn't there like a thing under fair use for porn parodies? Because that's why porn parodies exist, right? Is because they can use it for free. It's like how you can satirize people.
Yeah.
Fit under fair use. I'm pretty sure that's a thing. Because as if like some random fucking porn person.
Where is Zone anyway? Is he in America or Europe?
Probably Europe.
Yeah, because if it's Europe, I don't know. There might be different intellectual property regulations.
Maybe it's because it's like technically like lolly stuff, which is a bit dodgy.
Yeah. Isn't that right?
Yeah. Isn't that illegal? I guess it's weird that they called a cease and desist for him. But I know, isn't that fucking weird that you can get into a show because you watched a high quality porn animated parody of it? You're like, man, I could really get into this show based on this fucking porn I watched. Normally it's the other way around, isn't it, for people?
Well, that's a big thing about the show, isn't it? Like a lot of guys watch it because it has lots of
waifus. Yeah.
Very
it's waifus,
babes.
It's just fucking it's waifu core.
They have
waifu.
They've got
very
wide
attractive
hips.
Anatomy.
They've got wide hips, cute faces. They've got big busty parts.
Yeah. Yeah, no, you're right. It is because like that's like another influence from anime, but it's
everyone's very nice to look at in that.
Everyone
show.
is very aesthetically pleasing.
Yeah,
anime like
everyone's attractive. Yeah,
and everyone looks like an alien typically, or they look a bit fucked up. But it's like they can be attractive in universe, but because of the animation style, I think everyone just kind of basically everyone in the show looks attractive in a certain way, and so
they have because of the use of the specific assets and stuff. They have a consistent appearance. I think.
Yeah, definitely.
There's no weird body bending. You know, everyone looks. Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, no, I understand what you mean.
Yeah, and they're very unique appearances. The thing about like anime is I often can't tell the female characters apart, and even the men as well, because they all look the fucking same. They're just.
Well, that's the thing. There's such a variety of character types in Wakfu as well. It isn't just like classes of people. It's like they're fucking. And they're blue very people. There's fucking pandas.
Yeah, and that's also the novelty exoticism.
Yes,
of the different characters.
That's a good way to put it.
Yeah,
and they're varied in interesting kind of cult like ways. That's part of the world building, I suppose.
There are all these different religions that make them different types of sexy.
Oh yeah, got some of the. It's fit for everyone because you've got the normal women, then you've got the avatar blue people women, and then you've got the furry panda women, then you've got the green and black
brown
tree people,
and then
waifus.
There's so many things you don't even really see. There's like lots of different countries. Aren't there like all these different like nations? Like
I think they are, but they never.
There's when Nox, he's part of a big race, but he's the only one you see in the first 2 seasons.
No, see, here's the thing. In the first season, do we both skip over the Boof Ball section of the show?
Oh, yeah, we did for the second rewatch.
Basically, we mentioned earlier there's a section in the show, who you might be aware of this, where it's
in the middle of the first season and in the second.
It's in both seasons. It's basically where the characters play a football.
In this 3-part episodes of playing a kind of
soccer rugby
pastiche thing. Yeah,
with superpowers that was based on a mini game or an iPhone game.
That's right. It was based on a game from
Wakfu or inside the universe. That's another thing. It isn't just an MMO. It's like fucking iPhone games
franchise. That's
it's such a franchise. Yeah. Basically, it's based on that, and so not only is it boring, it's completely.
It's not used.
It's not terrible, but it's completely pointless. Like you can literally skip over it. I think what isn't
doesn't
it
really affect the plot. The last episode they get the ship.
Yeah,
like,
but no,
there's
but
something about they need the ship and they need to play the game.
No, but here's the double insult: is that they get the ship without the money, isn't it? Because we're all
That's right.
so it's completely useless. So we kind of skipped over it, but there is a part in there because it's like they're at this Colosseum playing this ball game.
Yeah,
and
this major city that they're going through.
Yeah, a bunch of Zellors, who are time manipulating people,
I don't think they're time manipulators.
They seem more like a cult than the other gods. People seem to pray to the other gods because it's like an ethnic thing.
Yeah.
Like if you're a
but are
panda
these guys
person,
like kind of very devoted?
They're
very
devoted to
closed in sort of thing.
They do feel like that's why they feel like a cult. But they're selling like plushy toys of the main cast.
That's right.
For winning both ball games.
Yeah.
And that's the only other time you see Zellors in the series besides the main antagonist, Nox, who is like a... Fuck, God, he's such a good character. Fuck, what do we want to go into? Like, I think we briefly mentioned the divide between like the quality in the first half of the show and the second half, but...
Yeah, not just quality, but direction. Like
it's every single level it is... Well, you had a very interesting theory where... In the first episode, so kind of the main antagonist, Nox, is kind of how I got into the series. All I heard about was, the first season is great, this character is great, he did nothing wrong. That's all I heard about, and he's very tragic. He's, in essence, if you don't kind of know about him, his backstory is, I don't want to be like explicit. Oh, I guess
he's trying to destroy the world, but he has a very strong personal reason, and he's deluded. And he has a very kind of interesting perspective and like mental makeup. And
the other thing that makes his kind of... Because he's kind of introduced as a insane, cackling, generic,
in the first
moustache-twirling villain.
Episode, I mean, maybe this is intentional, I don't know, but the way they introduced him, like the dialogue seemed to imply that he's just like, he wants more of the power.
Of the Wakfu. So here's the thing, in the series... The kind of his whole thing is...
I mean, he does want the Wakfu a lot, but...
He does want the Wakfu, but it isn't... He never kind of comes across ever again. Because he appears in season 1, like, twice? Sorry, in the first half.
In the first half. Like,
he appears in the first episode, briefly in the second, and then he just doesn't turn up until...
He comes back... what about when he bursts in on Hugo's dad?
That's episode 14. I count that. Well, that's literally as soon as the second half.
Yeah, right.
Because then that's when the plot starts. Basically, his kind of whole thing is Wakfu is kind of like the force.
It's the like primordial energy that's part of every life. Like it's the essence of life.
It's basically Chi, Chakra in Naruto, Nen in Hunter x Hunter, that sort of thing. It's the insert name here energy that characters use to power themselves. Only some characters who use magic, I guess.
It's useful for their magic.
But it's also like it's in all living things.
Yeah.
So basically his whole thing is he sucks, or Nox that is, sucks the Wakfu out of things to power.
Because you need to use it as fuel.
He needs to use it as fuel because he wants to go back in time. But that only comes out in the second season. And so Sean's theory was
not in the second season. The second half.
Fuck, I keep on saying that.
Yeah.
Basically, it's almost as if the first half of season 1, like let's say season... I don't know.
Like it's like, you know how like anime have like they're divided into 2 parts.
Yeah.
It almost feels like that. But Nox, and he also uses it just fuel
his own powers,
technology and stuff. Yeah.
Well, he fuels his fucking base of domain is an enormous robotic walking clock. Which it somehow feels legit, even though that image is completely ridiculous.
The way it's designed, it's got a cool mechanical design, and it all like works. It seems like they put a lot of effort into the design.
His whole aesthetic and character design and kind of what he surrounds himself with is really fascinating on multiple levels. Like we kind of mentioned, he has an interesting... The whole show has this weird, like, because it's set like a kind of generic medieval fantasy era.
Even medieval, like,
is it?
It doesn't feel medieval at all. I mean, it feels like it is, but it doesn't have any of the kind of qualifying marks that would... It's like
it's like generic Renaissance in that case, if you know what I mean.
No, not even. It feels like a world with lots of technology, but no modernity. like
Exactly.
there's
Yeah.
no culture of
What you're talking about is
technology.
the culture is kid friendly, so
Yeah.
it's modern. It isn't because I mean
No, well, like, sorry, but like it's I don't know. It's
I'd say
hard.
that the people are modern. They're not savage. They're not
Yeah,
murdering
yeah.
people. There's no
They also live in very
It's very Western.
yeah, but they live medieval. Like everyone lives in like villages and or like cities that you know, but not, and they're designed like, you know, classical.
Yeah. So here's the thing: there aren't slaves. Is essentially the main part of the show.
Although in the second season they do have a city like full of brothels and prostitutes.
That's
and,
really
like,
interesting.
criminals and
That's
stuff.
right. Yeah, but that's kind of like the. But even that seedy underground just functions like a normal city that's just kind of dark.
Sort of. It's like, you know.
So what if they have prostitutes? That's
No,
a
but it's
very
like the
modern
whole
thing
city is like
almost.
Sodom, like
It is.
it's like,
isn't it?
and it's all
It's
red.
literally like in hell, isn't
Yeah.
it, or something?
I don't know, it's like
with
lava,
magma
Yeah,
everywhere.
yeah.
It's very ridiculous. You know, I understand what you mean. It's kind of it's simultaneously. It's almost as if you transplanted modern people from the last 100 years into a fantasy setting, and then they just went about their lives. But instead of driving cars, they drove carts, and you know, so on and so forth.
That's
It's
also
almost,
a thing. I brought this up. Like, there's like a declining faith in
Yes.
the gods and stuff.
it's got this. Oh god,
It's
the
very.
world
It's like
building
it's
is
not
so
very.
cool.
It's
not in the
No
forefront
one makes.
in the
Yeah,
slightest.
it's not a huge theme or anything. But like,
Yeah.
there's all this kind of just the environment and the way like people seem to be a bit more flippant about
Yeah,
like their religion. It seems like, and
they also
people-
make jokes about it.
Yeah,
kind
it's
of
like they're like, oh, why don't you pray now? It's like, oh, now's not the
very
time
funny.
for jokes, because it's like, they don't expect their prayers to be answered.
yeah,
But
because
that's only that's not. It's like, if the way you talk about it, it seems like we're talking about these big, huge recurring elements, but really
they're
it's just
very,
small,
very subtle.
Yeah, just
especially when you
small
come to like
things.
Ogrest, right? I kind of forgot
Yeah,
he had
that's right.
he had a major part in like the very, very last fight. But no, all this stuff it's got one of the most interesting ways of doing world building in that it almost doesn't world build.
Yeah, there's no exposition about
Yes,
the elements in the
exactly.
thing. It's just there, and you could pick up on it if you want. It's like Lord of the Rings. Tolkien was basically did a lot of that kind of
Does
thing.
it?
I think.
I
Yeah,
get-
the books, not the movies.
Not the movies, because the movies have to explain stuff.
Yeah, and the movies. Yeah, but the books are very much.
But aren't the books very, very detailed in explaining lore and culture and backstory?
Yeah, I'm not sure exactly, but I do know. But there's that kind of feeling of just jumping into a.
A completely different universe. Well, Wakfu has that, but it's more in the sense of like, because basically, like, you look at any other series, Avatar is kind of the shining example of everything fantasy and cartoon. It's such a good comparison to Wakfu, but you have really good world building in that. It isn't extremely expositional in a poor sense. Like, hey, Aang, this is what happened. This is the 100-year
But
war.
does
so
make
on, but
everything like all the major factions,
all the
all
major.
the-
Well, here's the thing: the world building directly affects the plot.
Yeah.
It's the common, you know, if it doesn't affect the plot, like Chekhov's gun, if it doesn't mean anything to directly affecting the plot, then it shouldn't be included.
Yeah.
So there's no episode besides the Great Divide of Avatar that has absolutely no sort of foreshadowing or impact, or the lore doesn't then come back later
doesn't
for an episode.
move.
It
The
doesn't
viewer's
move the plot.
understanding for it doesn't move.
Yeah, you never learn anything that is superfluous, is
Yeah.
essentially it. And also, there's a really great narrative structure where Aang kind of serves as the fish out of water character, which is kind of the essential character in any sci-fi.
He's got to learn about
fantasy.
what's going on in the world.
He's got to
and
learn what's
all
happened in the
people
last
it.
100 years. So it's there's the common thing where it's like, if you're writing, you should never start a sentence with, as we both know,
Yeah,
this
yeah.
and this and this, because, you know, there's always the issue of how do we explain to the audience something that all of these people already know. So there's always
Wakfu, they don't even care about
Wakfu,
that.
here's the thing. There's no fish out of water character in Wakfu. You'd think Yugo, the main character, would be.
But he just has
But
like
he
a
isn't.
normal person understanding
Yeah.
of the world he lives in. Like, and
Yeah.
the only things that he like has to learn
are things that everyone else has to learn.
Yeah, because it's completely foreign to the like literally like otherworldly stuff.
Yeah,
like
literally.
he doesn't learn about powers that have been lost from the or like
or the religion or the gods
yeah, he doesn't
dying.
have to learn
or-
about like all these
or
different
chaos.
cultures because he's
Yeah.
just like, oh yeah,
And it's really interesting because sometimes they'll reference events that have happened in the past that are instrumental
yeah,
to an
yeah.
understanding of the world. Like,
But they don't explain them really.
don't
It's
explain
like-
them.
They're just like, oh yeah, and you kind of you build up a kind of image of the world in your head as you
Yeah.
go along. It's like you
it's very cool.
yeah, it's like if you're getting into like like a hobby or an interest, or like you're learning, you want to learn stuff about a certain subject, like music or philosophy or like computers.
Anything,
or
yeah.
like engineering, you don't learn everything at once. You kind of, or like
Yeah.
you learn language, you kind of immerse yourself in that environment, and you pick things up and things fall
It's a
into
mixture
place.
between knowing direct facts and having just a kind of absorbed
Context.
Almost like an ambiguous, like conceptual knowledge of things.
You piece things together
Yes.
like a puzzle, and
Well, here's the thing: there's sometimes in Wakfu where you're vaguely aware of the concept of something happening.
Yeah.
So you're like, "Hey, is it that the gods have disappeared?" And it's almost like you're aware of questions that you should be asking, as opposed to hard
things
facts.
that you can infer but aren't made clear.
Very vague though, but in a very good way. You'd think that
Not vague and but just interesting.
it's very It's because it shouldn't work as well as it does because it's like.
Well, that's the thing. Part of, like, we were talking about how the animation and style was jarring. What else I found jarring was the way it just kind of dumped me into this world, and I had no clue what's going on. Like, all the terminology that the characters used, it kind of reminded me of reading A Clockwork Orange, like the way the
language is just you're like, what the fuck is this?
It was kind of like that experience.
It's almost like you're understanding every second word.
Especially because it was a kids show, and with kids shows, the language usually kind of
they're normally very simple and expositional.
Yeah, and they explain. They use the words in ways that you can figure things out. But and they do that in Wakfu, but all the words are
it's just
completely
jargon.
made up.
There's so much jargon.
I remember particularly, I watched the first episode, and I was kind of raised eyebrow the whole time because of just like how strange things were, and I was very skeptical. And what struck out to me was like in one of the last lines in the episode is like, it's like, I can't remember why, but they're talking about Hugo and his bird, and they're like, a very special boy with his special tofu. And I'm just like, what the fuck am I watching? Why are the fucking birds called tofus? What the fuck? And like,
oh my god, yeah.
I know also the fact that they had all these different like races, like you had Enutrophs, and I couldn't tell what was what, and they're
also referring to each other as like they're insulting people based on their race. They're like, oh, you're such a bork, or you're a yop brain. And you're like, what the fuck are you talking about?
Or like, typical Enutroph habits. And I'm like, what is an Enutroph?
What the fuck is an Enutroph, and what are their habits?
Yeah.
See, it's interesting that you infer that.
And then you learn about it. You
learn about it in like a reverse way.
All that. Yeah.
Normally you'd kind of have someone explain what an Enutroph is like. And then when they do that, then someone calls them out on it. But you just have someone refer to it, and you're like, well, I guess that's what that is.
Yeah.
And then you learn what the Enotrophs are like at the start of it. We never learn what Borks are. What the fuck is a Bork?
They're probably something from the game, though.
Maybe. But then it's weird that they never reference it in the show. But they call people like... They say like, oh, something is as fluffy as a boof ball.
Yeah, yeah.
Which then comes into play later because boof balls are like these sheep things. So yeah, you've got this like it's interesting that by not telling you anything, it's almost as if you have just been dropped into the second season of a show and they expect you to know what they're talking about.
Yeah, that's what it feels like, and it's cool. I like it.
Yeah. Well, here's another thing. When I first started watching it, because it's very confusing as to what you're meant to start out watching, right? Because there's so many different, like, am I meant to start watching Dofus before, because it's a prequel, or
kind of like
this and this and this?
Legends of the Galactic Heroes, or
Gundam.
It's like, what the
Gundam's like 800 series, like, do I start with the original, or do I start with the one that starts first in chronological order?
Yeah.
And I was like, am I in the wrong season? Should I have played the game before this? But
yeah, and there's like Dofus as well, like just before, and there's like, and also because Dofus has like characters that you're kind of big in Wakfu, and you'll like learn their past, but whatever.
But you don't even need to know their past.
Yeah,
sometimes.
But it's still like,
yeah. Well, there's some of those events in Wakfu that are like you should know them more. Like we're talking about, there's this kind of event in the world. One of the major world building events is this thing called Ogress Chaos, where as you find out later in an OVA that was literally crowdsourced, and you wouldn't have known this in any other way.
Yeah, except through the MMO, because I think
maybe in the MMO, but that doesn't count as part of the show. We're not counting MMO knowledge as that. Basically, this kind of magical ogre being created by a scientist person. He has like magical tears, and he cries to the point where he like drowns half the planet.
Yeah, he can continue crying like infinitely. And he gets really sad, and starts like crying, and he floods like
the entire Earth and
he
kills
floods
tons
like
of people.
all like these and it's like this huge apocalyptic event that like destroys like a lot of the world.
Yeah, and kills like hundreds of bajillions of people.
And he becomes this kind of just a
he's almost mythological.
He's just like people
talk about
name
him as
drop
myth,
him like they'll say like the way people would say like
Jesus Christ,
or like no like people would say that what a devilish thing, or like I bet the devil's stolen my remote or something, or like those kind of
or you'd exclaim, oh Jesus Christ,
like in cultures where you'd say like I bet it was the trolls again, like Ogrest kind of fills that role.
Well, I mean, he literally is like a troll for one, but I understand in like in the mythic sort of role, but then he also literally exists in the universe.
But he's like scapegoated for all the problems, like a satanic, like just like a problem, like a troublemaker sort of thing.
And then people also refer, just in like a casual sense, refer to some people. Isn't at one point someone's crying and they reference that they're like Ogrest because they're crying? Yeah,
like just those things that would enter the kind of cultural consciousness of the world,
which is fucking insane that they managed to write that in.
And they don't ever like they put all this detail in, but they don't do it to like show off. It's just like they're doing it naturally. Like it's not like they're not like explaining.
Well, here's the thing: our knowledge of what we're talking about here comes from an OVA where it basically explains Ogrest's life and this backstory. In the first 2 seasons / the extra 3 episodes at the end of season 2, there's no explanation of what the fuck is going on. There's one point where Yugo and Adamai, who like brothers, I guess, well, they are. Yeah. Adamai is an ugly fuck. But basically Yugo's like, it's a scene that has no relevance to anything, at least mentioning something, but he goes, I used to love the story of Ogrest Chaos
that my dad told me.
And then Adamai's like, I don't think he's real, or I think he's real, or something. But then they don't explain what that is, and it has no relevance, but it's still really cool, like it feels like it's essential to the show almost, but it doesn't serve any purpose besides that, but I love it.
And then at the end of in the final fight scene between Lux and Yugo, the clock machine gets transported for some reason to the place where Ogrest is. Yeah,
and this is the place that they go to in the
season
2 OVAs.
And there's like one shot to establish where they are of Ogrest, like in the distance, like being angry, surrounded by ocean. Yeah. But then he has like no involvement in the fight.
Well, because basically what happens is Yugo beats Nox to a kind of finish, and he's about to like murder him, and then Ogrest screams in the background, and there's some sort of like, is there like a beam of energy or something? There's so many beams of energy in the past couple of episodes. Yugo turns away and is distracted for a second by Ogrest, and then Nox kind of turns the fight back around in his favor. That's the only, why he's there, it's still kind of baffling, but it's almost as if it has this like so far in the background vague setup, because they're just referencing like aspects of the mythology of the world, and then randomly Ogrest turns up and has an impact on the plot, but you still have no idea who the fuck he is. You don't even know that that's Ogrest.
I didn't realize. I wouldn't have known until like
they don't know,
coming back
what he
and
looks
watching
like.
it again.
Yeah, you'd only know, even if you watch you'd have to watch the Ogrest special.
You'd have had to have played the MMO, I think.
Probably as well. Yeah,
because he's a character.
Is he a character?
I think there's like a boss fight you can do with him.
Probably. Well, he's kind of essential to like the
whole
Wakfu
universe
world
thing. Yeah,
but then that's the thing, is that the show is very independent of the MMO. So it's the world building is absolutely insane in that regard, in like how they managed to pull it off and for it to make sense, and it's so natural the way that you learn about stuff to essentially have no exposition is absolutely fucking ridiculous. But no, we're talking about like, from that we were talking about how like serious the second half of the first season is, right? The first half has like these really absurd, very kid friendly,
like the kind of things I'd expect from like a very non-serious cartoon, just like a nice little adventure thingo.
Well, that's another thing that's jarring, is that they're using this complex terminology about a world that obviously is quite complex, and then they're like, oh yeah, you're a Bork, you're a Yopra, and you're so on and so forth. There's all these classes and complexity, and then there's an episode where they fight giant bread demons and have a baking contest.
It's like what kind of world is this? I mean,
yeah,
but they have giant, and they have all kinds of like really exaggerated, and like some of the fight scenes are very comic and very like not.
They're not serious.
And they don't have any kind of realistic
physics.
Thing. Yeah.
Well, there's kind of unrealistic physics in the whole show.
Yeah. But the thing about those fights is like you'll have like in the one with the pirates, Eva like does a slap and all the pirates get slapped comically, and all that kind of stuff.
There's like very like cartoonish.
Yeah.
behavior, like characters like having their faces beaten in and they've got like broken teeth and like eyes, and then in the next shot they're completely fine. Like the cartoon logic.
It's full of all that kind of stuff, but there's also very serious,
especially in the second half. Like there's that whole episode where one of the characters, Evangeline, she's like an archer. Here's the thing: the world is almost Greek in the sense that the gods are almost Greek. So she kind of hails from the equivalent of like Artemis, like the bow and arrow hunter sort of person.
Yeah, the people devoted to their gods, like they're like made in the image of their own deities.
Yeah, and they kind of have the abilities, I suppose. It's kind of an ethnic thing, but it's also implied that it's like a religious faith thing. It's polytheistic.
All the gods have their own like tribes that worship them and take on their characteristics.
It's like it's fascinating, and also like how there's certain things in the show that are never stated, but they're kind of visually established, like the fact that the Kra, the bow and arrow people,
the elves,
they're like they're basically
elves. They're
servants of the Satada
they
forest
take a
people.
servant role in that like society. Well, they're kind of like
they're not servant. They're like bodyguard.
Yeah,
protectors.
They're both separate nations, sort of. But the Kra are like they play like a bodyguard.
They're like the military, but then also the Satada have a military.
But the Kra,
like how they kind of symbiotically function together. But it's never. There's no sit down and talk like as a Kra. I have to protect you.
None of that kind of stuff.
But there's a scene where one of the main characters has her bow broken, bow and arrow, which is apparently like the
all
worst.
we see is her like shocked face, and then like later we hear, oh no, she had her bow broken. That's so humiliating.
It's like the worst humiliation. I was talking more about how it's so friendly and kind of almost carefree in the first half. Like Nox is kind of this looming threat, but he isn't really the focus. All the episodes are kind of monster of the week, and it's very fun.
They're just traveling to a location, and then once they start to actually get close, like everything ramps up into full gear.
Everything gets fucking. It's so serious. Like her reaction to getting the bow broken, it kind of, when you expect what are called like reaction takes in animation and voice acting, where people go oof, like fighting sounds. They have like a certain level of acting to them, but
they don't sound disturbing. They don't
sound disturbing.
Real. They're not
very,
like
I think of the Evangelion, the Shinji scream in End of Eva, where it does the zoom out, and it's like the most fucking like blood curdling. thing. It's like
I had that with
Eva getting her bow broken.
Like they're very they conveyed the gravity of that very. They didn't have to explain it, but they're just like, holy shit, this is a big deal.
It's like also because it's a little like too genuine, not in a bad way, but like you're kind of watching.
Sometimes the way characters react, like getting fucked up.
It's some fucked up shit basically. Like because you're kind of going along and you're like, oh, this is a fight scene, and then she gets her bow broken, and it's like this scream she has is so like guttural, and
her face is very like all wide-eyed with red, and like
she's like just like shocked on the ground, like god, it just becomes like in an instant it's so fucking serious.
And when Grugel or Gran gets defeated by Nox, and you've got what's his name, like all the other characters in that snow place.
Oh my god,
and they're having a snow fight, and then Adamai like pauses because he realizes
Grugel's died,
he's
his
dead,
kind of father.
And he's just like, and then he like pauses wide-eyed with this traumatized expression, and there's like snowballs hitting his face.
Hits him in the face, and he just like doesn't change, like the Vietnam flashbacks.
Yeah,
but I kind of like that. It's almost like the it's like a taboo or some sort of level.
There's no all the bad things that happen don't happen in convenient ways. It's not like, oh, this is the dramatic scene. It's like, well, life is just kind of punches you in the guts sometimes.
Well, here's another thing, and it's kind of a hypothesis I've had about like cartoons a bit, where because if you go into an action film, you're expecting a certain level of violence or severity for actions.
Yeah.
So when you watch a kids
Depending
cartoon,
on the rating and that kind of thing.
depending on the rating, obviously. And then you go into a kids cartoon and you expect, or you go into Wakfu, and from just the first half of the show, you're expecting a certain level of severity. But then something happens like Ava's bow is broken. And then it's like, and then you get this bump up.
They have, and like the fights you expect and that kind of thing are like, just small groups of people having kind of confrontations where they're having, dialogue and communication and, very...
It's not like they're in any real danger. It's just kind of like an action scene happening.
And then in the last few episodes, you have like armies assembling with like wars and like...
Yeah, the scale of that really kind of bumped itself up a notch. It becomes this kind of interesting strategic invasion scenario, which is really cool. I'm talking more like Avatar has this as well, where, and not to go into any spoilers specifically here, but the show is kind of going along at this like, especially the first half of season 1, it's like a level of acceptance of what you're expecting.
Yeah.
And then you see these flashbacks of like Fire Lord Sozin fucking like genociding the airbenders, and you're like, what am I watching? It's like...
Oh, like Kung Fu Panda 2.
Oh yeah, that's another one.
They have like people getting killed on screen and that kind of stuff.
It's like slapstick comedy.
And then like a genocide of like all the pandas.
And then like Poe being like hidden in radishes, and his mom goes off to like commit suicide. And in terms of severity, I don't think we've even like touched on Grovey dying yet.
And the way that was like the way that they
double, triple,
executed
quadruple,
that, because they
fake out.
They set it up as if like it can be solved, but then it doesn't get solved at all.
Well, let's go into the specifics of that. Yeah. I think it's interesting that there's an episode immediately after, because it's actually Grovey in this in essentially like a berserker form. We should talk about Rubelax at some point. He's an interesting kind of character, or positioned as a character, but he basically breaks her bow in this berserk state because he's not in control, and then he realizes, oh fuck, I've like humiliated this person I'm attracted to, because they kind of have a relationship that builds over the series, albeit a little quickly. I think it's kind of like,
but they set it up.
It starts being a thing very quickly, though.
A bit more brave, a bit more like they started doing things that they like after they found their kind of
their stride almost, or they kind of figured out.
Started being a bit more like themselves, like making the show their own.
Like once they'd already made 13 episodes and they were in the clear, they were like, time to do the real shit. That's what it feels like. But he kind of breaks her bow, and there's a scene where he walks into the desert because he thinks he's almost directly stated that he's just going to walk into the desert with like no shirt or shoes or anything, just like commit suicide essentially. Yeah. And he's just like, oh, okay. But then he has a kind of turn around and basically
he goes to his master's like
grave. Yeah. Accidentally. I kind of like that he's like magnetically drawn to that almost.
It's like kind of a subdued thing. Like he's not like intentional, but he's like just going there like
as like a subconscious. Well, I don't know, because
anyway, whatever. Anyway, and he goes there and he's and then
he has character development. Like
everyone. And he learned, his master comes and he helps him learn to have willpower and control his the demon.
The demon in his sword.
He's part of this class of like people called like the Guardians of Shushu's, and there are these like knights that captured demons called Shushu's.
They basically harvest their energy and put them into weapons or rings or objects.
And they're guardians of them. They like train them and take responsibility for them. He literally has to confront his demon to get control of it. Then he finally becomes like a competent guardian.
Because the whole thing is that he's referenced throughout the show as being basically like a hack.
Like very trash, and he's not a good hero. He's not a good.
That's the interesting thing. What I really like, one of the main things I like about the first half, or one element, is that Grovey is introduced as the first antagonist. Basically, all the characters start to come together. The main cast is like Yugo.
He's the first opposition.
He is the first opposition because he kind of comes in. He basically tears in as a berserker, as like Yugo's first opponent, essentially, to test out his powers. And it's a really interesting establishment of his character as the guardian of the Shushu demon, who isn't in control of his Shushu.
So, and then that's what leads to him breaking Ava's bow, and so he goes into the desert, and he finally learns to overcome and control his demon and earn its respect as well.
Yeah, he earns its respect by beating it in its own domain, essentially, which is cool.
And then they come back like kind of redeemed and in control of the self.
Well, he's kind of self-fulfilled. He's fulfilled his role as the guardian of the Shushu, because even his master, before he's even defeated Rubalax, but it's kind of implied that he's going to beat him, he like walks off and says something like, have a wonderful new life or something. This is like the next chapter in his life. But that's a really interesting character arc for one, because he goes from, you haven't seen
he like goes from being he's
like the comedic relief,
and then becomes like,
he's like the leader almost.
Yeah, he gets everyone to actually fight. Yeah, because they're all like hopeless, and then he comes back. He's like, "What are you all doing? Come on."
Well, he goes from, his essential character is the idiot brawler. His race is essentially Ares, like a warrior, basically dumb warrior class. There's kind of the main insult of the show is calling people yop brains, because his class is a yop. Basically, they're not really known for their intelligence, but he goes from the dumb, very like morally driven, because he's literally a knight, so he kind of has this kind of code of ethics, I suppose.
But he can't really live up to.
He can't live up to it because he can't even control his fucking demon sword thing, and so he kind of goes from the incompetent dumb warrior to the warrior monk leader, where he's not like. It's not like he suddenly becomes like super great, but he's in control of himself. He's not like he's more self-confident.
He understands his strengths and his weaknesses and is able to do stuff.
Yeah, well, he becomes a commander despite being a dumb fuck, but he's like he's intelligent in almost like a stoic sort of way. Instead of kind of being like this goofy spastic, he's very he's kind of aware of his downfalls. Yeah. But the interesting thing about Rubalax's sword is that I was thinking about this in another show, in another fantasy show. Even you'd have Grovey would just be a knight, of some vague description. And we'll kind of go into like his actual knight order, maybe, because it's kind of interesting. But he just have possession of a sword that had a power that could get bigger. Because his sword kind of
his sword like
changes length
and then it can give him like a power.
Yeah,
but the thing is. Yeah, it's possessed by a demon who's like this fully fledged character.
He's a character.
And
he essentially combines with him, but the demon takes over. No, but the interesting thing about that is that instead of it just being like, I have a sword that is magical and it can make me go berserk and lose control, this character embedded in his sword, which just takes the piss out of him all the time for being a weak fuck because it has no respect for him. Him and Grovey are like the comedic duo, and that he basically just makes fun of Grovey and also just kind of makes fun of other people in the gang. His intention is so clear all the time, as he always wants to convince Grovey to release him and go berserk and free him. I always just found that interesting that you added this whole other element where his magical sword is always trying to break free.
And he's an evil spirit.
He's evil
literally
demon.
Evil.
He's not just some benign power.
Because there's
he's literally from hell,
and there's and there's this whole thing when they meet the dragon for the first time, Google or Agran, and he can see people's souls, and he thinks they're all evil because Rubalax's soul is so evil.
It's like cloaking all of them almost.
You can only see this big red aura.
And that's another interesting. I don't think the map. I don't even remember the map's name.
The map, something. He's like an evil demon as well.
So basically, they have a magical map that tells them wherever they want to go. But the great thing is that the map is always trying to deceive them because it's literally just a demon. It's just it wants to fuck with them all the time. And for a major part of the first season,
they don't even know how to
They don't know how to manipulate it. For one, they think that they have to shower it in praise. And then it turns out that that's wrong. That they're actually meant to threaten it. Like if you don't tell us where we're meant to be going, we're going to burn you to death or something. We're going to cut you into pieces. Really interesting that the literal objects that they use are trying to fight against them or serve.
That's a cool element.
Yeah, because the duality is that Grovey is very powerful with his sword, but then his sword is also trying to actively fuck him up. Yeah, but we're talking about it. Kind of the show starts to get more serious. He kind of comes back from that. And he's kind of fulfilled his character arc. I can't think of any other characters that really have that arc.
Yugo doesn't no other characters really have kind of that arc where they go into the pit.
They distinctly change.
Yeah, they don't have a thing where they go like they all evolve and become like more well-rounded,
powerful and well-rounded.
But none of them have the arc of losing face, going down into the like rock bottom, and then coming up and redeeming themselves with more that kind of thing. They don't have that.
It's only on a power level where they're like utterly defeated and then they come back instead of a character level. Like even Ava, who has her bow broken and she's like fucked up for like an episode, she gets it back and her character doesn't change. Not that her getting it back is like a bad thing.
No, but no one else really has the kind of arc that he does.
No one has the arc that Grovey has. Also, we should mention that his name is fucking confusing.
Yeah, whatever.
Tristan,
just like
Sadly Grove, Grovey, Pon, Pin, Ping, Pong. Fuck. We're just gonna call him Grovey.
Yeah.
That's the subs
easy.
we had.
Yeah.
Way easy. It's so interesting because his character is like fulfilled and he kind of becomes almost like the ultimate version of himself, unlike anyone else. And then he fucking dies. But it's not even in like it's dramatic, but it's not overly dramatic, which is what shocked me about it so much. Is that they do this really interesting,
and he still hasn't like saved the day. All he does,
That's right.
He only saves the life of
characters. He doesn't even defeat. So the kind of setup is Nox is kind of invaded almost at the Earth Kingdom, but the Sarada people, the forest people. He wants to, and there's a really interesting element of this where he basically wants to suck the life out of
the Tree of Life.
The Tree of Life, which is
what
it essentially possesses. No, the thing is, it has
all the lives of all the
Sarada people.
Like their souls.
If you suck the Wakfu out, then you kill the entire race.
Yeah.
Which is a pretty cool setup to have. Honestly, they're all trying to protect the Tree of Life at all costs. Not Nox, but he has like a dreadnought, essentially a mechanical.
Like a mechanical thing, like a little servant sort of thing. That's like a robot.
A robot servant that shoots giant laser beams.
Yeah.
And so there's this kind of setup of a scene where everyone is getting absolutely horribly defeated by this thing. It's extremely powerful. And these two characters, Evangeline and Amalia, the two female characters, they're kind of in the path of this laser beam, and there's a shot where it's like basically being fired at them.
Almost enveloping them,
implying that they're going to die. And then it cuts, and it turns out that Grovey has jumped in front of it in his like berserker form, and you're like, oh wow, okay, he saved their life. And then it's kind of set up like Evangeline starts going, oh Grover, we need to leave now.
But then he's like, he falls down. He's
fucking dying, and you're like, and then he actually just straight up fucking dies.
He dies, and then the beast isn't even.
It's not even damaged at
all.
And
then Evangeline is like, just accepts that she's gonna die.
Oh, that's so fucking full on. Yeah.
And then she's like, okay, well, I guess we'll
enter the legend together.
And then, but then the robot gets smashed by
a midget blue hooded man.
Yeah.
The point is that he
only saved her life.
He died for that, but it's so unexpected, kind of in contrary to his character, especially immediately after having finished his arc. I didn't, it's often easy to predict deaths, especially in anime, where you'll often have a character life story dump,
foreshadowing, and all that kind of stuff. Whereas he was just coming into his element, and then
you feel like he's just reached his peak, and then instantly dies. He's not expendable either. He's not just some side character. He's a fucking main character who's just had a very strong development episode. And it isn't like a, you haven't seen JoJo, but JoJo, I'm thinking of part 5 at the moment, there's kind of a scene where this one character is like, right before this big fight, they're like, yes, I remember that when I was a child, I used to love enjoying pizza in Napoli, and I'm going to love going back there after. And then they just fucking die instantly. Because it's like, they have to instantly set up the tragic backstory or the life, and then it's tragic when they die. But Grovey doesn't even have like a tragic life.
He just
it's a tragic death, I guess.
But nothing that was like.
But it isn't dramatic. It isn't drawn out for like.
But what I mean is like he wasn't created to die.
You're right. Yeah. Well, that's arguable. He's kind of created as like a self-martyr figure almost.
Yeah, but it wasn't like something you would have predicted, really.
Well, the only thing...
You wouldn't have chosen him.
There is a really cool little foreshadowing piece where in a dream sequence of Evangeline, where she's being like manipulated by the Tree of Life, the actual entity, I suppose.
Yeah.
That she has like a fake version of Grovey in her dream sequence, and he's talking about how like they should be together as a couple, and they'd be traveling the world, and that they'd have a tragic death. And she goes, "Well, I love the sound of all of that, except does the tragic death part really have to be a part of it?" And he goes, "Well, it's but it's so cool, isn't it?"
And then that's right.
And then he tragically fucking dies, and then she's like, "I would love to tragically die with you." And then he just dissipates, and then she's broken again.
Yeah.
hilarious. But you're kind of watching that, and the death was short enough and not. I mean, it's obviously dramatic and serious as fuck, but it's not.
It doesn't take a huge centerpiece. It's not like
not an anime death. Where
they spend the rest of the
ground.
Episode going, "Oh no, Adamai," and all that.
That's the thing. They don't have time to rest until far long afterwards. Where you'd expect in I'm trying to think of like L's death in Death Note. It's like at the end of the season. It's this big thing. Everything stops for it,
and everything's kind of leading toward his death,
yes.
and then that's kind of the resolution of that plot arc.
You don't necessarily expect him to die at that point. It's quite a sudden death when it comes up in that scene, but the thing is, it's like...
Nice Death Note spoiler for...
okay, if you haven't seen... who the fuck wouldn't have seen Death Note? Some people, I suppose. Sorry. Basically, that has a lull afterwards where you're allowed to feel his death.
But this doesn't really. It has at the end of the episode, there's the same resolution where they're all standing around his grave in Wakfu. I mean,
that's the end of the that's the end of the season.
The whole but that's after
that's after else. That's after another whole episode.
Yeah.
So you have that fake out where it's like Evangeline and Amal here, they're gonna die.
Yeah.
Grovey saved them. Oh, Grovey's actually going to fucking die. What the fuck? But the thing is that with Nox having his whole time manipulation and kind of I'm going to go back in time plot.
It seemed like they were setting it up so that they'd be able to neatly prevent his death.
Yeah.
And everyone would be happy in the end.
And here's the thing, why that's a cop-out is because storytelling-wise, you shouldn't be allowed to have the tragic death and then have it resolve firmly where he doesn't
having
die.
your cake and eating it kind of thing.
Yes, exactly. It's not... You can do it, but it's cheap as fuck.
Manipulative.
It would undermine his sacrifice, essentially. But then, season 2.
But then it ends up being completely
The whole thing that's tragic about Nox is that... He's alive for 200 years,
200
canonically.
Years.
His whole thing is that the OVA for him is so amazing.
Let's just talk about
let's just talk about Nox. Okay, for fine. Basically, he goes back in time 20 minutes when he's meant to go back in time 200.
Because he wanted to prevent all the mistakes that he'd made.
Well, here's another thing about his character that's interesting, is that if his plan actually succeeded, his master plan, then literally nothing would have happened.
Yeah. It would have been all
of the people that he killed, it would have been erased. Which is such a tragic thing, of course, is that it doesn't work, and everyone that he's killed is still dead, and he's failed, and he's spent 200
even
years.
The last person that dies, which is Grovey.
Well, here's the thing: they go back 20 minutes, and they come back immediately after Grovey's death, but they don't even brush over that. There's a moment, and I was almost very disappointed in the show because as soon as they started going back, I'm like, oh, that's what they're doing. They're going back before his death.
Exactly.
Oh, that's cheap. And then they kind of come out, they're like, oh, we went back in time. And he's
they both
go, oh my god, Grovey's alive. And then they check out the window and he's still fucking dead. It's just that's like the quadruple. That's the fourth fuck you.
Yeah.
In a good way. In a good plot way.
It's really cool.
It's like the triple punch in the gun. God, we haven't even started talking about Nox yet, kind of in detail. We've skirted around the edges, but I think for me, he's kind of the main reason that the show is as it's kind of the main thing that got me into it.
What kind of elevates the show for you?
It does elevate it, yeah. Oh, I mean,
he brings it up to makes it I don't know. What do you mean?
He carries the show almost. His arc. I'm not sure.
For the first season, he's sort of what makes it all good.
Well, here's the thing: the first half of the season, he's bland as fuck. He's not even in the show. He appears one time.
Yeah, he's just like a generic villain. Just trying to fuck
villain.
shit up for some reason.
You don't even really understand his purpose in the slightest. But then, I mean, it's I think it's episode 14. That's when kind of everything picks up. It immediately starts with this really interesting flashback to his family, and then
that's when we start seeing things from Nox's perspective. Before, we don't really see him.
He's literally in the show for 5 minutes, 6 minutes. And he's just generic, and all he is, whoa, what's a Wakfu? I want to consume Wakfu. It's just all really dumb, bland shit.
Ooh, give me the power.
I need. It's I thirst for Wakfu.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. That's the line I was thinking about. I was like, I thirst for Wakfu. It's makes him seem like he's just
he just wants power. He's just power hungry. Yeah. He's a power hungry person, but
he has a motivation. He's not just
Just to very briefly go over his kind of backstory. Basically, he's a regular, normal. Is he a Zeller before he actually...
Well, I think, that's just his race.
It's just kind of his race or his god or whatever the fuck. And
that's why he's a clockmaker.
He is but are all Zellers clockmakers?
I don't know. But that's his,
It's his thing.
Yeah, and he's like a eccentric little inventor with a nice family.
Yeah, kind of nice family, has kids, a wife. He finds and here's an interesting thing about the Elio Cube, which I really like, is... Basically, the Elio Cube is kind of all-powerful artifact from the Eliotropes, who are the race that Yugo comes from, of magical teleporting portal and children.
Like really powerful and dangerous.
I love that it isn't just some sort of almost like a benevolent artifact. It implies that it made him go mad.
Yeah, yeah.
And even Grugal is talking about how it's like almost, it's not that it's just too much power for humans. It actually starts talking to him. And the implication is that it reminds me a lot of the One Ring. In Lord of the Rings, where it's the ultimate invisibility power, but it sucks the will. But it's weird because the One Ring belonged to Sauron, so it makes sense that it's this demonic artifact.
I don't think it makes everyone invisible. I think it's just it gives you what you truly want or something, and Frodo wanted to think. I'm not sure. I'm not sure if it makes everyone invisible. Anyway, sorry, go on. I just wanted to, in case anyone got autistic about that. I might be even more
You might be
wrong,
completely
so,
right. You just offended everyone. Wow, thanks, Sean.
But yeah, go on.
But you know what I mean. It has the all-powerful artifact that has the demonic downside.
Yeah.
Same with Grovey's sword. It's the powerful sword, but it's got the demon in it. But the interesting thing is that it's made from a race that the main character comes from, and I'm not sure why it would make people non-Eliotropes go insane.
It's just one of those things. It's like an alien artifact that is kind of incomprehensible and beyond the.
But it's
also not made for.
It's not made for humans. Or is you an alien technically?
Yeah.
I mean, they refer to everyone as a human, even if they're fucked up and green or whatever. But but what's interesting because it implies that he's like, oh, Igor, my dog. He ran back to the beach to find it. It's like he was strangely attracted to it. And then obviously Nox gets sucked into it and it ruins his whole life. But basically that's the plot. He kind of finds this all-powerful cube, and that's kind of the main drive of the season is kind of getting the cube. And basically...
I mean, he has the cube. But
Nox has the cube, but for the main character, it's defending the city from him.
And for Yugo, it's finding
the cube eventually, which is a pathway to finding his heritage,
or
his
powers
family,
and his race and that kind of thing.
Yeah, and so it's really interesting that his backstory is essentially he degrades. He's basically Gollum or whatever his name is from Lord of the Rings. He becomes this skinny, disgusting, skeletal person who's very twisted and kind of on the brink of madness, and his family have left him, and they, his wife says, I've moved to my sister's place on some island.
You can come
and live with me anytime, just don't bring the cube. I think he chooses to stay with the cube, doesn't he, over his family, which is what I find.
Well, he does, but he does it he's going to go, but then he gets tempted again, and he's like, just a little bit more. So yeah.
But that's what I find interesting is, so he essentially abandons his family as a result of the cube, and then his debt collector comes along. There's a little subplot with this, where his debt collector is a very obviously Jewish man with the...
I don't even know how
that's such a weird... How did they get that past censorship? Is it because it was Kickstarted?
Yeah, but at the same time, it's it feels like if I were the person approving the content for that, I'd be like,
what the hell is this?
Why have we... It's he oh my...
He's anyway. He's the most... Yeah. Basically, he comes along and says, "Oh, Nox, your whole family died because of Ogres Chaos," which is.
And then he goes crazy, and he's like, "Oh no, I've got to reverse this." And he's
the cube starts talking to him and says, "Nox, you can make it all go."
Yeah. Or the cube.
The cube starts talking. Yeah, but I mean,
isn't it implied that it's not the actual cube?
But okay, in that sense, if the cube makes him go mad. And is almost telepathically channeling him. Because remember, the first time he picks it up, it has this really interesting, animated sequence where he sees, inside the cube.
And, himself and stuff.
Himself, it, goes into his brain. It's you kind of see, it's invading his consciousness almost. So I would count that as the cube talking to him.
But I want... Maybe it's not
it's not literally
as if it has a personality.
But the cube kind of does have a personality.
But it's ambiguous because it implies that he's insane.
Yeah, no, it's implying that the cube makes him insane.
Yeah.
Obviously, it's not the cube. But
anyway, go on.
Okay. Basically, it causes him to go insane, and his whole thing is that, hey, I need to go back in time now, and I'll use
the power of the cube.
Yeah, obviously the tragic thing about that, for one, is that he was the one that caused leaving his family, and then he was tempted to go back, even though he'd already abandoned his family, he still wanted to stay with the cube. But his whole plan is to go back in time. God, his whole... I mean, even for one, his character design is fascinating. He's got that great... The OVA with him, and it has the beautiful art style, because it's only 20 minutes long, but it's very obviously hand-drawn and has a lot of care in it. But there's this amazing like aesthetic degradation where he goes from this like
healthy, vibrant,
colorful, vibrant, plush
like strong
lifestyle.
Yeah,
he's like a really he's a big guy, but it kind of goes into his workshop, which is almost like kind of whimsical.
He's like tinkering around
making
with like
the
nice little
clocks
inventions and stuff.
Yeah, I like that. He makes the flying clock, which then later turns into the little Wakfu bug thing.
Yeah.
And then it just turns into this like steampunk, dark industrial nightmare. And there's soot coming out, and by the end, it's like his whole house is this like cancerous green, smoggy growth, and everything's bleak, and it's like it's such an interesting transformation he has. Also, I love that his welding helmet becomes his face mask, which is really cool. But that generates the aesthetic. It's a lot cleaner in Wakfu in terms of everything's like very clean, Victorian steampunky kind of alien aesthetic as well. In terms of everything's like this futuristic kind of like electrical tech stuff, and then it's
clockwork and stuff.
Lots of clockwork, gears everywhere. It's a very cool design.
Yeah.
But then his design is kind of fascinating. It's implied that no human is meant to. What he's doing is basically destroying his body. In terms of, I think his wife says,
and he's got all by the time of Wakfu, he's just wearing all these wraps around himself.
Yeah, I like it's like bandages are holding him together. Yeah. It's this interesting, like it's almost like a mechanical body horror thing.
Because he moves around like a clockwork, doesn't he?
Yeah, he literally moves his arms.
Yeah, and his head and stuff. So it's like kind of like he's been fixing his own body with mechanical.
Yeah. Well, because I think the common reading is the final shot of the whole of season 1. It kind of the ending for Nox is fucking tragic, but he basically loses. And the thing is that if he succeeded, obviously everything actually would have been fine. Theoretically, he would have gone back in time, because it's kind of like Yugo drains some of the Wakfu, and he goes, "I'm never gonna have another chance to do this. I have to do this now."
Yeah.
And then he only goes back 20 minutes, but. It's also possible he was insane and it was never going to work. But it's interesting because the final scene, or the final shot of season 1 is after he's been defeated, it's just his body like flying away into dust, essentially. Yeah, because it's like the wraps lying on the ground and then his body...
Oh, really? I thought... Yeah, okay. I thought it was like a grave or something.
No, he's at his family's grave.
Oh.
And because it's got like his one of his kids wears like a watermelon for a hat.
So then he's just kind of died and gone to waste there.
Well, the thing is, it's like all that was keeping him together was essentially just Wakfu and the cube. It basically just that energy was keeping his body together. That's why he was like in wraps, like his whole his whole physical form was just like completely. I mean, he was like 200 years old, so of course he was like basically like completely broken as a human. But I really love that he's essentially broken and like mentally, he's not insane in like I'm a psychopath, crazy, I'm insane, I'm manical insane. He's like insane in an actually like emotionally broken sense.
But
and
his plan lost everything is just going to...
Yeah, because I love that there's a great moment where he's talking to Grugal and he's like, if I succeed, then no one will remember all the horrible things I've done to get here. And if I fail, then I don't care because, fuck it.
Yeah.
Like life is not worth living without my family. So he's got such a it's so perfect on a plot and character level is the thing. So he's just a fascinating element, and it's so fucking tragic that he only gets 20 minutes back in time, and it's like,
it's a very cool thing to have like the whole adventure center around that, and also the way it ties into Yugo's character. Like, it all makes sense, and it's all a very good, like, logical world, kind of something that would happen in that world kind of thing. Yeah,
definitely. I have such a fucking hard-on for for sympathetic villains. It's where his goal is... It's noble, even though he's insane.
I don't know if it's really noble. I mean, you can kind of read... Like, it's kind of like a father trying to save his kids and stuff, but it's also a very kind of selfish thing. He won't let go, and he's trying to fix his own mistakes, and he's killing like millions of others.
He's killing them, but
I know. That's the interesting thing is that he can fix it all if he ends up doing it right.
Well, that's the thing. There's the I think we've talked about this before. The existential thought of like, would you submit yourself to like 1,000 years of torture and hell if you couldn't remember it, and if you got some sort of grand reward from it?
Yeah.
Like, is the suffering just because the suffering happens and is deleted from your memory, does it mean that you should? I mean, maybe not submitting yourself to it. Maybe submitting someone else.
But that's the thing. Isn't all life like that?
How so?
Because when you die, that's basically.
But you're not directly submitting yourself to it, and then without memory.
No, but that's what I mean. Like, when you die, there's without memory, so it'd just be like suggesting a person
that's
exists
interesting
for 1,000 years and then dies. That's like saying,
is it worth living? You don't have an exterior perspective on that, though.
So it's like saying, like, oh, let's have a baby and grow up in a fucking hell and like just live for 100 years. But it's okay, when he's dead, he won't remember it. No?
But that's his entire lifespan. There's nothing beyond that.
Yeah, but if you're suffering for 1,000 years, that's basically your entire lifespan, isn't it? That's more than you probably won't remember anything about.
Okay, let's make it 10 days. Still pretty bad. 10 days within your lifespan that you don't remember. That's an interest. That's the quintessential philosophical concept. Regardless of, see, the thing is, with the baby's life, is that their entire life for 100 years is just that, and then they cease to exist. I guess they're in hell, and then they just actually die.
Yeah.
They have no life beyond that, and just because it's not that they don't have a memory of it, it's that they're dead, so they don't have anything.
Yeah, but what's the difference between someone experiencing something and then losing all memory of it, and then something experiencing something and then dying?
Because they have a life outside of that. They would
but
never know.
Not that person knows of if they're suffering it, because then they're not getting transported. They wouldn't. It would be like they wouldn't feel like, oh, I've come out of all that suffering. It'd be like, yeah, you know. But whatever.
Okay,
let's talk about Wakfu.
Rip. But no, Knox has that. That's kind of like the philosophical underpinning of his ideology. Because that's the interesting thing, is that you disagree with that. I mean, you're talking about it more on like an actual logistical level. You don't think it works, but it's interesting that we can have that like moral divide almost, which is kind of the center of his character.
Yeah, it's like it's an interesting thing to think about and discuss.
Logistically, his plan makes sense, right? Because it's like
it's easy to rationalize, yeah. But
the
thing is, what I'm interested in is what would he actually do when he gets back?
Well, that's the thing, is that he caused himself to leave his family. It wasn't obviously, because the thing is, he didn't just go mad on his own volition.
No, but what I mean is, like, what would happen when he goes back? Like, how would he fix it? I mean,
I guess he goes to his family, but he's so broken. He's so broken. It's been 200 years, you know, that he's been basically broken.
Unless
his body got fixed.
Yeah, like
going back.
Anyway, because that's how.
Did that actually happen? That did happen to Yugo and Anima.
Yeah.
I guess he'd have to go back over 200 years. He'd have to go back before he started tinkering with the cube. I mean, because it doesn't matter for him at that stage. It's just he'll do whatever he can.
Yeah.
And it's kind of implied, because the thing is that when he was with the cube and his family died, his family didn't matter to him. He was so seduced by the cube that his family leaving, they were basically dead to him. You know?
No, he cared. He was still sad about it, and he was like,
no, when they died, before they died. You know, he's going to pack his bags and leave, and then
that doesn't mean he doesn't care about his family. He's just like, but look, I can do this. He's still like, he wanted to leave, but then he's like,
that's what I mean. He chose the cube over. That's what I mean. His temptation was so strong that he stayed with the cube over his family when he was given a choice.
Yeah.
And then when they die, he kind of has that realization. But the only way he sees to get them back is to use the cube further. So it's almost like an excuse to stay with the cube and create this enormous invention. And then, die tragically without having accomplished anything and having murdered lots of people and so on and so forth. But his character is just, especially for a kid's show, it's pretty fascinating. I love that they don't have a sit down where they just directly explain his character. They do it in these kind of creepy but justified creepy scenes where he's like puppeteering the events of his past, like he used to do for his own family, like put on these puppet shows.
It's a cool parallel. Gives you info on the character in all sorts of different ways. It's
very visual, which I like. It's never ham-fisted. It's never expositional. But his whole design, his whole character is kind of like the thing for me, and that's pretty much why I like this section of Rip Wakfu. That's why it's kind of by far the best.
And that's what kind of got you into the show.
But have you got anything else?
Not really, no.
There's
there's so much in the show that you can't really cover everything, and especially if you want to go in depth and like discuss things.
In depth is hours. I think I kind of I had this idea, especially when I kind of started doing podcasts, where I did them for Avatar, and it's just like, you know, doing film reviews as well, you can talk for like a certain amount of time for one thing, but I mean, TV shows are so much broader.
Yeah.
Especially linear shows
and
like
there's
this.
all kinds of different elements that make it up, because each individual episode has its own direction, components and things. Yeah,
and
so
like, especially for like big linear world building stuff like this, there's so many elements to talk about. Like,
and there's so many, and it's a huge franchise too, and there's just so.
Like, I think in total, like, over 2 seasons of Avatar, my podcasts are, like, 8 hours long or something, 7 hours long. You know, and that's not even talking with someone else. That's just
that's
going
intense,
quietly insane. So let's wrap it up. That's kind of that's kind of it. I don't know.
Yeah, just Wakfu, man.
It's cool. It's pretty good.
It's worth watching.
Yeah, and the 3rd season is coming out.
That's right.
Is it on Netflix? Is it? I've heard it's funded.
Is it going to come? Oh, that's right. Isn't it? Maybe.
Partially
Netflix
funded.
might be funding this one, yeah.
Yeah, and here's the cool thing, very briefly about this, is that kind of I think both of our issue with the 2nd season is that for one, it's not very good. It's not bad. It's basically
I liked it. I enjoyed it.
It's watchable. It's watchable in the same way that the first half of season 1 is watchable. But it's not
I didn't dislike it as much as you, I think. I think I enjoyed it a bit.
I have a smaller tolerance for bullshit.
Although I can't remember much about the 2nd season.
That's it. Yeah. It's just I think I went into it and I went, wow, because I was kind of blown away by how
I did like just watching stuff for the world building and the characters, like seeing that happen. I like that, especially when Kilby
is by far the best part of that. Like the last 6 episodes of that season, fantastic. But the OVAs, some people are so on, but I kind of like them. But the 3rd season is only 13 episodes, which probably means it's condensed.
Gives it a bit more, like, there's going to be some, like, direction.
Yeah. I mean, because the thing that makes Wakfu Season 1 great is basically a 13-episode stretch of brilliance, almost.
Yeah,
and hopefully they kind of are trying to replicate that. But yeah, watch it if you haven't. I don't know why you would have been watching a complete spoiler dissection of the series if you haven't seen it yet.
But whatever, I mean, we haven't even gone into, like, a whole bunch of stuff.
Oh, we didn't even go on.
Like, you'd still be so much, like...
Yeah.
That would be new for you if you watch the show now.
I think there's a thing where a show is basically good if you can spoil everything in it and then it's still enjoyable to watch, because there's a lot of especially aesthetic elements of the show and the writing and the characters and especially the animation.
It's hard to describe in words to give you a picture of it, because it's hard.
It is very unique.
Yeah.
Because I was thinking as it's going along, it's kind of generic kids show Avatar stuff, and then it's kind of like, oh, this is cool. Like the action's really good.
Yeah.
Like that Grugal Nox fight is very DBZ, fantastic. And then it gets serious.
It's strange how like it's like they're going above and beyond to the point where they actually turn their show into something like worth more than it was. Like they actually turn it into, it's like, but
I don't know how they did it.
Yeah, but anyway,
it evolves.
Yeah,
and that's it.
All right.
Bye. Ciao.